The stars were quiet above the battlefield. Space was cold, dark, and endless. But deep in that darkness, a war was burning. Ships from Earth and ships from the alien world of Elvari fought near a broken moon. Laser blasts flashed like fireflies, and explosions lit the void like angry stars. Private Jack Carter sat inside a transport ship, gripping his helmet tight. His hands were shaking. This was not his first mission, but it felt different. The command had been clear: do not engage in rescue missions. We do not risk human lives for alien allies, the general had said. Jack didn't like it, but he had nodded along with the others. The Elvari were strange, tall beings with silver eyes and glowing skin. But they had helped Earth during the siege of Vesta. And Jack still remembered one of them, Lieutenant Ciravel. She had fought beside him during the Battle of Red Cliff Base. She had saved his life once, pulling him from wreckage when his leg was broken. He had not seen her since, but he hadn't forgotten. As the transport ship moved past the edge of the battle, the pilot's voice crackled over the comms. Elvari, ship down on surface grid 1-2A. No response from crew. Command says, ignore and continue. The soldiers around Jack said nothing. It was just another order, but Jack couldn't forget. Cira, he stared at the screen showing the crash site. Flames, smoke. Silence. His heart thudded harder. He checked his armor, loaded his weapon, and made a choice. I'm going, Jack said. Sergeant. Miller looked at him. What are you talking about? There might be survivors, Jack replied. I know one of them. You heard the order. You don't go back for aliens. Jack shook his head. I have to try. You'll be court-martialed. Jack looked out at the stars again, then so be it. Without waiting, he grabbed his gear, locked his helmet, and ran to the drop bay. The other soldiers called out, but Jack didn't stop. He jumped into a small scout pod and launched it toward the surface. The wind screamed as the pod burned through the atmosphere. Below him was a rocky planet, mostly desert. The crash site glowed like a wound in the earth. The Elvari ship was broken in half buried in red sand. Jack landed his pod a few hundred meters away and ran through the dust. Flames danced around the wreck. He heard nothing but the sound of his own breathing. Climbed inside the twisted metal, calling. Out, Cira. Anyone? Is anyone alive? A weak voice answered. Help. He followed the sound and found her, Ciravel, pinned under part of the control panel. Her silver skin was burned and her left arm was broken, but her eyes still shone. You came, she whispered. Jack dropped to his knees and started pulling the debris off her. I couldn't leave you, he said. Not after what you did for me. She winced as he lifted the metal beam. They told you not to come. I don't care what they said. Carefully, he helped her out of the wreckage and carried her back to the pod. She was light, almost weightless in his arms. Her breathing was slow but steady. Her silver blood stained his armor. The pod's medical system began treating her wounds. Jack sat beside her, silent. You'll be punished, she said softly. I know. Looked at him with tired eyes. Why risk everything for me? He didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, because you matter. The pod lifted off, heading back to the main ship. Alarms were already going off. He knew they would arrest him. He would face court-martial, but he didn't care. Cira reached for his hand. Her fingers were cold, but they held his tight. Think. You, she said. He nodded, and for the first time in a long while he smiled. Asterisk Turner returned to base. That is not your mission, came the reply from command. Jack didn't answer. He shut off the channel and ran toward a scout bike parked nearby. He started the engine and raced through the forest, heading toward the signal. Trees flew past him. Smoke stung his eyes. He didn't care. After 10 minutes, he reached a clearing. A small alien ship had crashed into the ground, its sides torn, open. The engine still burned. Jack jumped off his bike and ran inside. The ship was dark and full of smoke. He moved slowly, calling out. Then he saw her. A tall alien woman lay on the ground. Her skin was pale blue and glowing. Her body was covered in cuts and burns. She was trying to crawl toward a small child hiding under a bench. The child was crying softly. Jack knelt beside her. "Don't move. I'm here to help." She looked at him with tired eyes. "You are... human?" "Yes, my name is Jack. I'm a soldier. I'm going to get you out, please, ... or save her," she whispered, pointing to the child. Jack picked up the child first and carried her outside. He laid her on soft grass and ran back. He lifted the alien woman into his arms and carried her out as well. Her body was light, but she was badly hurt. He set up a medical field kit and gave them both water. He called for help again, even though he knew Command would be angry. Soon, a transport ship arrived. Soldiers jumped out and surrounded Jack. "Put your weapon down. You are under arrest." Jack raised his hands. "I saved them. They needed help." His commanding officer stepped forward. "You disobeyed a direct order. That is serious." Jack looked down at the alien woman. "I would do it again." The officer shook his head. "Take him back. We will deal with this." Jack was taken in handcuffs. The alien woman and the child were carried away on stretchers. As he was led into the ship, she looked at him once more. Eyes were full of thanks. Back at the base, Jack was put in a small cell. He sat on the cold bench, thinking he had saved 2 lives. Was it really so wrong? Hours passed. Then the door opened. A young officer stood there. "You have a visitor?" Jack looked up. It was the alien woman. She was weak but standing. She had bandages on her arms and a translator around her neck. "You came," Jack said. "Yes," she said softly. "I wanted to say thank you." "You don't need to. I just did what was right. Not everyone would do what you did. My name is Lyra. The child is my daughter." Jack nodded. "I'm glad you're both alive." She stepped closer. "I told the doctors what you did. I told your commanders too." Jack smiled. "A little. I don't think it will help much. They don't like rule breakers." "Maybe," she said. "But maybe they will listen." She touched his hand gently. Her fingers were cool and soft. "You risked everything. I will not forget that." Jack looked into her eyes. They were filled with light. He didn't know what would happen next, but he didn't feel alone. She left, quietly, and the door closed behind her. Jack leaned back and took a deep breath. Whatever came next, he had no regrets. The next morning, Jack was taken from his cell. 2 guards walked beside him as he entered a meeting room. Inside were 3 officers sitting at a table. One of them wore a silver badge, showing he was from the tribunal. Jack stood tall, the officer. In the middle spoke. "Private Jack Turner, you are charged with disobeying direct orders during an active mission. You understand the charge?" "Yes, sir," Jack said. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Jack looked around the room. Then he spoke clearly. "I heard someone calling for help. I knew the orders, but I couldn't ignore it. I chose to save lives. If that was wrong, I accept the punishment." The officers looked at each other. One leaned forward. "This is not a small offense. You left your unit. You endangered yourself and others." Before anyone could speak again, the door opened. It was Lyra. She stood before the officers and bowed her head. "I asked to speak," she said. "This man saved me and my child. He could have left us. He could have followed orders. But he chose kindness." The officers were silent. Lyra continued. "You say he broke the rules? But rules mean nothing if they ignore life. I am a doctor. I have seen death." What Jack did gave us hope. The tribunal members took notes. Jack was led out of the room again. Later that evening, Jack sat alone in his cell. The door opened. A younger soldier stepped inside. "Turner, you're being moved. The tribunal hasn't decided yet, but your case is gaining attention. The story's spreading." "What story?" "Yours. The one where a human saved an alien mother and child. People are talking. Some say you're a hero. Others say you're dangerous." Jack nodded. "Let them say what they want. I did what I had to." The guard paused. "She's still here, you know. The alien doctor. She visits the med bay and talks about peace. She keeps saying your name." Jack smiled. He didn't know what the future held. But for now, knowing Lyra was Saffined, that his actions mattered was enough. Outside the walls of the base, the wind blew across the sand. Somewhere in the stars, change had already begun. 2 days later, Jack was called again to the same room, but this time the room was full. Officers, reporters, and alien ambassadors sat watching. A high-ranking general stood at the front. "Private Jack Turner," the general said, "your case has been reviewed not just by military leaders, but also by the High Council." Jack stood still, listening. "While your actions broke the rules, they also opened a path we didn't expect. We've spoken with the Elvari delegation. They wish to meet. Because of your actions, they are willing to talk about peace." There was quiet in the room. "You are not being punished," the general continued. "You are being reassigned. You will serve as part of the human Elvari liaison team." Jack was shocked. He looked around, unsure if he heard it right. A representative from the Elvari stood. "We believe Jack Turner's heart shows the best of humanity." Later, as Jack walked through the base, soldiers he didn't know nodded at him. Some smiled. Others looked unsure. But no one called him a traitor. He found Lyra in the med bay. She was helping human doctors understand alien biology. "They assigned me to the liaison team," Jack said. Lyra smiled. "Good, that means we'll work together." Jack sat beside her. "I didn't expect this. No one expected kindness," she said outside. The world was still broken. It was still war in parts of the galaxy. But here, on this base, two people from different worlds had started something new, and it was only the beginning. Jack woke early every day, now wearing a new badge with the symbol of peace on his chest. As part of the liaison team, his job was to help humans and Elvari understand each other. Meetings were long, talks were slow, but Jack stayed patient. Lyra worked beside him, translating Elvari culture, customs, and values. She taught the humans about Elvari healing, family structure, and history. Jack explained human emotions, duty, and the reason he had broken rules that day. Together, they made progress. Some humans still didn't trust the Elvari. Some Elvari still feared humans. But one by one, things began to change. Soldiers who had once looked at Lyra with cold eyes now greeted her with quiet respect. A few, even, asked for her medical help. One afternoon, a small group of young Elvari children arrived at the base with their teachers. It was the first time alien children were allowed inside. Jack met them at the gates. He smiled as he saw Lyra holding her daughter's hand. "Are you sure it's safe?" she asked. "We'll keep them safe," Jack said. "No one here will harm them. Not while I'm around." The children walked slowly, curious about human buildings and machines. Jack gave them a simple tour, showing them the garden, the training yard, and the peace hall. Lyra translated their questions. The children laughed when Jack tripped over his own boot while explaining something. It was a good moment that night. Jack and Lyra sat under the stars. The sky above Varelia was clear, filled with stars and distant lights from orbiting ships. "It's working," Lyra said. Slowly, yes, Jack answered. She looked at him. "Do you ever regret it? Disobeying the order?" Jack shook his head. "Never. That decision brought us here, and here is worth everything." Lyra placed her hand on his. They didn't speak after that. Words weren't needed. The next morning brought more news. A major human fleet was docking nearby, and their top commander wanted to meet Jack. Some feared it was a sign of trouble. Others believed it meant new possibilities. Jack stood ready in his uniform. Lyra stood beside him, her daughter holding her hand. Whatever came next, Jack knew he had to stay true to what he believed in: kindness, courage, and peace. No matter how difficult the path, the fleet arrived with quiet strength. Dozens of silver ships floated in the sky, casting long shadows over the land. The top commander, General Ellen Graves, stepped out of her shuttle and looked around. She was known for her strict nature and sharp decisions. Jack stood at attention when she approached. "Private Turner," she said. "Yes, General." She looked at him for a moment. "You caused a storm across the galaxy, disobeyed orders, got arrested, and now you're the face of peace." Jack didn't say anything. He didn't know if she was angry or impressed. General Graves continued. "I read every report, saw the footage, and I also saw something else. I saw hope. She turned to Lyra, who stood beside Jack.
Dr. Lyra, we welcome you. Your actions during recovery and the effort toward peace are noted. Lyra nodded.
Thank you, General. We only want peace. Graves nodded. Let's see if we can make that happen. Meetings began the same day. Jack sat beside Lyra at the negotiation table. Human officers and Elvari leaders faced each other. There were long talks, deep arguments, and quiet pauses. One evening, after a long meeting, Jack and Lyra took a walk outside the base. Stars sparkled. Above, do you think it will work? Jack asked. It has to, Lyra said. Too much has been lost. They stood in silence. Then Lyra looked at Jack. There's something else. Jack raised an eyebrow. What is it, my people? They've asked me to stay longer. They want me to become the first Elvari ambassador to Earth. Jack felt his heart beat faster. That's good, right? It is? But it also means I'll be leaving this base. And you. Jack looked at her for a long moment. Then I'll go with you? Lyra smiled. Are you sure? Yes, Jack said. I've broken one rule. What's a few more? She laughed softly, and they held hands. That night, Jack filled out his request to be reassigned. Not for war, not for command. For a future he could believe in. Together, the stars above didn't change. But below them, everything was beginning to